Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make videos for NBA DFS content, prize picks content, sportsbook content. All these videos, they get posted on this subreddit right here. I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day. Anything you need, this will be linked down below. You can ask me questions about the slate, people talk strategy, up to lock, all that good stuff. Have it linked down below. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter right here. So let's go to my lineup from tonight. Pretty good night overall for me. I thought I was absolutely cooked early on. Rudy Gobert was having a basement game. Mike Conley had one fantasy point at halftime. Unbelievable salvage by him. McDaniels, he had like 5 fantasy points at halftime. He had a good start to the second half, but yeah, pretty good night. My core today was Rudy Gobert, who is a core play. I thought he was one of the best plays in the slate. Only 30% owned. He did good for the slate. Anthony Davis was a core play. I told everyone to get to at least one of 80 and LeBron. You could play both together if you want. Once Dinwiddie opened up, we went pretty heavy on this late game. Neesmith was a core play. So yeah, the core did great today for this slate. My biggest stand today, I told everyone, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with chalk Jalen Smith. Just absolutely nothing to do with it. He was the worst play on the slate. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, at 60% ownership, I just thought he was a horrible play at that ownership. Now, not factoring in ownership, I thought he was one of the best value plays on the slate. So it's just kind of what you want to do there with that situation, et cetera, based on ownership. Because like if we're not factoring in ownership, yeah, he's one of the best value, probably the best value play on the slate before Dinwiddie news, right? So it's like got to make decisions off that. I wanted nothing to do with him. That was my biggest stand today. I was not playing chalk highest owned play on the slate. Jalen Smith just wasn't going to do it. But hopefully you guys had a good night. If you are interested in more in-depth content, DFS content, prize picks, books, all that good stuff, I'll have my Discord link down below. All right, we got a huge slate here. Finally, a bigger slate here. So let's just go right through these games pretty quickly. Charlotte and Cleveland, don't like much here on the Charlotte side. Tough matchup. These two teams, they play slow. Charlotte, they've been a lot slower this year because LaMelo Ball's been out the entire year. Cleveland, they play slow. They're tough defensively. Definitely some blowout risk here in this game. So like Miles Bridges, he's been really bad of late. Now you have a really tough matchup going up against Cleveland. Nothing more than a contrarian play for me. Same with the likes of like Brandon Miller. I think Mann's a bit overpriced. I think Mitchich is a bit overpriced at 5.6K. I really don't like anything here. Nick Richards at 5.5K, I guess, is fine. You think they might need him out there more up against Cleveland, but yeah, I don't like anything. I guess Poku, honestly, Poku might be my favorite play on this team. He's been getting decent run of late. I guess it's fine for value, but I think on this big of a slate, we'll probably get more value opening up. But yeah, man, not much to like here on Charlotte. Let's move on to Cleveland. So I believe it's going to be I believe Evan Mobley will sit at the back-to-back here. We'll keep an eye on Max Strus and Dean Wade. If we get a similar, I would assume they'll play, I think. We'll go over both ways anyway. But if Max Strus is in, Evan Mobley's out, or if everyone's out, say Max Strus, Dean Wade, and Evan Mobley are out, then I like good amount here. I think Jared Allen looks really good in a phenomenal matchup. I think Darius Garland's very good at 7.7K. I really like Karis LeVert, especially after a stinker at 7.4K. Guys like Niang would be in play. Okoro would be in play for value. Sam Merrill would be in play. They wouldn't be standout values, but they'd be definitely firmly in play for salary relief. And then if we get, I'm almost confident Mobley's going to sit tomorrow. If we get like Strus and Wade in, I'm probably not going to touch any of this value. Main interest here would be like, you know, Karis LeVert, Darius Garland, Jared Allen would all be pretty solid plays. And if for some reason Mobley does play, I still like LeVert, I still like Garland, have interest in Allen, and then Mobley's going to be on the limit. Probably wouldn't get to like Niang. I'm sure better value will open up with like Okoro, Merrill. So yeah, main interest here is definitely the main guys here for Cleveland. Moving on to Brooklyn, I like this team quite a bit in GPPs. Phenomenal matchup here going up against Toronto. Sign me up for some 7.3K Cam Thomas going up against Toronto. He is playing huge minutes right now. He is their go-to guy right now. He's shooting the ball 20 plus times. Like the spot here going up against Toronto. I really like Cam Thomas in GPPs. I think Mikal Bridges is a good play at 6.9K. They're thin here, by the way. No Cam Johnson, no Dennis Smith Jr. So they're going to have to play a really tight rotation here. So Mikal Bridges, he might have to play the entire game. I like him quite a bit. Claxton should play around 30 minutes. I love the spot for him. I think he's a really good center option. Dennis Schroeder at 6.3K is fine. I think I prefer the others, though, at similar price points. Day'Ron Sharpe, they're kind of doing something weird. Day'Ron Sharpe got back up 5 last game. Another game that was like Clowney, I believe, whatever it was. I don't think I'll go there. I think there'll be better value opening up. No Cam Johnson, so you probably should see pretty big minutes here for Dorian Finney-Smith. I actually don't mind him for value at 4.2K. Lonnie Walker should see a decent run at 3.4K with all these guys out. I think he is a intriguing dart in large field tournaments. I don't mind it. You can go there in single entry as well. Good point per minute guy that's going to play off the bench. Should get a minutes bump. I would expect probably high teens minutes for him. Could even get into like the 20-minute range. Fine. Yeah, don't mind it in large field GPPs or single entries. Okay, too. Moving on, Toronto. Quickly and RJ Barrett going to be out. Jonte Porter going to be out still. So last game they went with Ramsey in the starting lineup over Bruce Brown. We'll see. It's not going to matter too much. I mean, Bruce Brown still played 32 minutes off of the bench. Like, that was kind of weird. But like Ramsey, he's playable regardless. I don't think him starting or coming off the bench really is going to matter too much. Kelly Olynyk and Gary Trent, I think, are decent plays. I like Gary Trent quite a bit at 6.3K. They don't have scoring on this team. Like, they really don't. It's like Dick and Trent, they're just going to shoot the ball a ton. So like Gary Trent has like 50 fantasy point upside at 6.3K when he's really making his shots. He shot 10 for 26 here and 1 for 45 fantasy points. How many times did he get the free throw? Okay, that's a bit of an outlier. 10 free throw attempts, but yeah, he just has a massive ceiling. I still think he's too cheap with everyone out as well. So I really like Gary Trent. I think Kelly Olynyk's a solid play. Bruce Brown's playable even if he starts or comes off the bench. Dick has a ceiling. Ocha has a ceiling. I would say they're both probably getting to the price point to where they should be, but still firmly in play in GPPs. And then Ramsey is a playable value. All right, moving on to Boston. All going to depend on Derek White for me. If Derek White's in, I mean, I like Porzingis in a phenomenal spot going up against Atlanta. I like Tatum. I think he's a pretty good spend up at 10K. But like Jaylen Brown, I would say is probably priced right. Don't know if I get to the value here, though. But if Derek White's out, I think, Peyton Pritchard, I would expect starts here. At 5.6K, I would really like him. He'd have to play a decent amount. Sam Hauser will get a bunch of run. I think I prefer Pritchard at that point. Kristaps Porzingis, I really like at 7.9K. Jaylen Brown, still playable, but I would prefer Porzingis point per dollar. And then Tatum would be a very good spend up at 10K. So, yeah, this team definitely could look solid. Just a really good spot going up against Atlanta. Moving on to Atlanta, Okongwu and Jalen Johnson going to continue to be out for this game. So you should see Capella and Bruno Fernando kind of split the center minutes here. Bruno, I think, is a decent point per dollar value play. Good point per minute guy. Him, Capella, kind of splitting the center minutes. I give the edge to Bruno as a play point per dollar. Obviously, I prefer Capella straight up. But I think Bruno is definitely a decent point per dollar value on this slate at 4.4K. DeAndre Hunter, I think, is priced right. Capella, I think, is priced right. Bog has a ceiling at 6.7K. And then I like DeJounte Murray. I think if they're going to have a good chance of keeping this game close, it's going to be a big part of DeJounte Murray doing everything for this team. I have a feeling he'll probably be low owned tomorrow going up against Boston. And he's done well in tough matchups, too. So just the usage with him right now, with the team to himself, is absolutely absurd. So I still really like DeJounte Murray, sub 10K. Even in a tough matchup going up against Boston. I'm not going to touch Vit Krejci. I think we'll just have better value, but he's been playing big minutes of late. He is playable. I don't know if I'm personally going to go there, though. Moving on to Detroit's Cade Cunningham, I do expect to play today. Jalen Duren is questionable. Simone Fontecchio also questionable. Ulster Thompson, Isaiah Stewart remain out. So if we get a similar situation to today that happens tomorrow, say for some reason Cade just doesn't play tomorrow, then there's going to be a good amount to like here. Metu started today. Would really like him for value. Sasser started today. Would really like him for value. Wiseman would really, really like at 5.7K. Ivy would have to do everything for this team. I'd like him quite a bit. Tosan would be playable off the bench. Troy Brown, I believe, started. I don't know if I'd play him, but yeah, decent amount to like here if they're all out. Now, if Cade's in, which I expect him to be in, and like Duren and Simone are out, keep it on the starting lineup, but like Metu, I still think would be a pretty good value. James Wiseman will start. I'd still really like him. Cade would be playable. And then I don't know if I'd touch any of that other value. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Duren. Keep an eye on Simone. If everyone's in, I don't like pretty much anything from this team. Cade's playable in GPPs. Don't like the spot for Duren. I think Ivy would be priced right. Wiseman would be out of play. The value would just be out of play for me. So keep an eye on that. Pretty important there. Let's move on to the Knicks. And I like quite a bit here from the Knicks. I mean, they're just running a really tight rotation, as per usual, Tom Thibodeau. But like Miles McBride played 48 minutes last game. He is still too cheap at 5.4K. He is just so safe. You know, a guy's just going to play the entire game. Not going to be high usage out there, but when you have a guy playing 48 minutes at 5.4K, he's always going to be a decent point per dollar play, unless he's like Tony Snell, right? So still pretty high on Miles McBride. I think Hartenstein's a pretty good play at 5.6K. He's been playing high 20s a minute, good point per minute guy. Really good spots. Like, I mean, he could be going up against Wiseman here. Pretty high on him. Dante DiVincenzo played 41 minutes. He's a guy that's going to shoot the ball a ton when he's out there. I like him quite a bit. Josh Hart's going to play the entire game. He's very, very safe at 7.4K. Jalen Brunson in a phenomenal spot. I like him a ton as a spend-ups. There is a ton to like here on the Knicks tomorrow. Just can Detroit keep the game close? That's the question. Moving on to Phoenix. So, Nurkic, I think, is priced right. It's a good spot here, especially if Victor Wembanyama gets ruled out. It's like, I'm intrigued by him in GPPs. I would just say he's probably priced right. Just the minute ceiling isn't really there with him. Bradley Beal, Booker, Kevin Durant, they all kind of look pretty similar to me. I think Booker is just going to be my favorite, just because he is the cheapest of the two. And then Bradley Beal, I think, is fine. I think I prefer getting up to like a Booker. I'm not going to don't like Grayson Allen, don't like the value here. I think the main interest here is, you know, possibly some Nurkic. I think Booker looks good. Kevin Durant's fine. If you guys want to prop, I have Kevin Durant over his points on sportsbooks. I don't know if it bumped. I believe it was 23.5. You can go check that out if you want. Moving on to the Spurs. So the big news here, Victor Wembanyama. If he is out, Zach Collins is going to move into the starting lineup. He would look like one of the best value plays on the slate. Then Dominic Barlow should get the backup 5 run. He'd be a playable value. And then there'd be a ton of usage to go around. So like Devin Vassell would look good. Trey Jones would be a very good play. Sochan would be firmly in play. Keldon will have to play a bit more off the bench. I'd like his ceiling in GPPs. I don't know if I get to much else here, though. But yeah, the main guys definitely would look good. Now, if Wemby is in, I think it's probably just interesting Wemby and Devin Vassell in GPPs. I mean, spend-ups on the slate, you have a ton of good options. I think Wemby is always going to rank as one of the better spend-ups, but yeah, I think it'd just be Wemby and Vassell for me personally. Moving on to Washington, keep an eye on Jordan Poole here. We have Coulibaly, Kuzma, and Tyus Jones out. Keep an eye on what they do with the starting lineup here. Bagley is back, but they still started Rashawn Holmes. If Poole's in, they probably go like Poole, Denny, one of Bagley or Holmes, Kispert, Baldwin, I guess. Or they could start, they could go smaller. They could do a number of things, but whoever starts, I would like for value. If Poole plays, I think he's solid. He's going to have to play close to 40 minutes. Denny, Poole would be their 1-2 punch. Be very, very safe at 7.2. My only concern here is Chicago's tough. They play really, really slowly. Holmes is fine if he starts. Bagley probably wouldn't go there at 5.6. Still think he's kind of going to be limited. And then Corey Kispert at 5.5K should have to play all the minutes he can handle. I'd like his ceiling. And then whoever starts, I'd like for value. Now, if Poole's out, I would assume Jared Butler would start at 4.4K. If that's the case, I absolutely love him for value. And then if they start like a Baldwin, Penny, whoever starts, I really like. Whoever comes off the bench is probably going to have to get run firmly in play. Denny would have to do everything for this team. He'd look good. Kispert would look really good. So it's definitely going to be some value. Definitely going to be some plays here for Washington. Just my only concern is the matchup and pace of Chicago, right? Moving on to Chicago, that is. Kobe White is probable, and we have Crucial probable as well. Good matchup here. Really, really good matchup. I think Vooch looks like one of the better center plays on the slate. I think DeMar DeRozan looks really, really good at 8.2K. I think these are the two best Washington Wizards if I had to pick two. Looking at centers on this slate, you have a ton of options, and I think Vooch definitely stands out to me as one of the better center plays in this mid-range, upper tier mid-range. So yeah, I'm really, really high on Vooch. I think DeMar is really good as well. Another thing with Chicago is they are running their starters into the ground. So DeMar, Vooch, all look really good. Kobe White's still firmly in play. I think I prefer DeMar and Vooch though, but he's still a solid option. I would say Ayo is probably priced right. Caruso priced right. I don't think I get to any of this value here though. I guess move on to the last set of games here. Portland, very, very important. We could have some really good value here with Portland. If Ayton, Simons, Grant are out, they're going to go with the starting lineup of, it was Scoot Henderson, Duop Reith, Chumani Kamara, Chris Murray, and Ryan Rupert was the starting lineup, I believe, last game. Also keep an eye on Thibault. That's very, very important. So if they're all out again, I mean, Scoot's going to be their go-to guy. He's probably going to chuck the ball 20 plus times, probably shoot 10% from the field, though. Stat sheet stuffer as well. He'd have a very high floor with a very, very high ceiling. I would really, really like Scoot here at 6-1. Ban if he comes off the bench or starts. I would still like quite a bit at 5.9K. Chris Murray would be a solid value. Kamara would be a solid value. Duop Reith I would absolutely love at 4.9K. Jabari Walker would be firmly in play. I don't know if I get to like a Rupert, but Higgins would have to play more off the bench. He'd be in place. Like there'd be a ton to like here if they're all out again. If they're in, I think it's just like Simons for me, possibly like Ayton, but I don't know if I get to much else here. Maybe like a Scoot, I guess is okay. I definitely wouldn't touch the value though. Moving on to Houston, like the spot here going up against Portland. I still think there's a decent amount to like. I still think Jalen Green's too cheap at 8.8K. He played into the blowout last game in a 40-point game. I mean, with no Jabari Smith now, I mean, Jalen Green is just going to have to do absolutely everything for this team. You know, God's going to chuck when he's out there. His peripherals are going to go up, right? He's been rebounding the ball really well. It's a good matchup. So I still really like Jalen Green. I think Fred's a solid play at 8.3K as well. Amin Thompson is fine, but I think I prefer getting up to like Fred, Jalen Green. I assume Jeff Green will start. If he starts, he's fine. Jock Landale will get more run. He's firmly in play. If for some reason they do start like a Jock Landale, then I love me some Jock Landale. Dillon Brooks is in play. And then I think that's it. But yeah, let's move on to Dallas. Absolutely love Luka Doncic. He's the best spend up on the slate. You want your 60 to 70 fantasy points, you play Luka Doncic. He looks phenomenal. Kyrie Irving, I think is a solid option at 9.4K as well. If you don't have the money for Luka, sure, you can play like Kyrie Irving. Just hope Luka has a bad game and Kyrie has a big one, right? Gafford, Lively, they should split the center minutes. Both don't really stand out to me. Gafford's been playing really, really well of late. It's also a really good matchup, so I guess Gafford's fine. I would say he's probably just getting to the price point where I think he should be. I have a feeling he'll be popular tomorrow too, so it's like, Peter Washington at 5.2 should play big minutes. Not going to do much out there though. I think I prefer getting up to like a Gafford. Lively's priced right. I don't know if I get to this bench value though. Moving on to Utah, good spot here for Utah. It all depends on Markkanen. All depends on Clarkson. If they're both out, I believe they went with a starting lineup of, I believe Drew Zhang started. You know, if he starts again, go there. It's fine. But John Collins in that game, 323. I believe he was. Yeah, he was. So with that being said, if they're both out, Juzang starts again, you can go there. But like Keontae George is 6.5K, Collins, Sexton, these three guys, they're going to dominate usage here. I think once again, the best point per dollar play to me is going to be Keontae George at 6.5K. He'll play in the blowout as well. You know, guys going to chuck, stuff the stat sheet. So I still like Keontae George quite a bit at 6.5K. Definitely my favorite play. On Utah, Collins is fine, and then Sexton, I like his ceiling, but I prefer the price on Keontae. Walker Kessler is priced right, and then I don't know if we get to much else. If they're both in, I don't know if I really get to anything here. I think Markkanen be a decent play at 8K, assuming no limit. He played 36 minutes in his the second game back here, so assuming no limit, I like Markkanen quite a bit, and then, you know, I don't know if I get to much else. I think Keontae's still fine. Collins still be playable, but I think Markkanen would definitely be the best play on this team if everyone's in. All right, moving on to Memphis. I mean, it's hard to say right now. They have everyone doubtful or questionable. One thing to note is they've been having people inactive, active. Nobody's reporting it. So I do report it in Discord and on Reddit. I do know before the game's lock who is available for Memphis each time. So check out Reddit, check the updates there. I post them there for everyone. When nobody's reporting it, like Underdog isn't reporting who's available for this team. But I end up finding it, and I will post all that stuff on Reddit. So it's really hard to say right now. Like if people are out, we get Goodwin starting again, then I love Goodwin at 4.3K. If, you know, like I said, if everyone's out, GD Jackson would look good. You know, possibly we could have interest in like Scottie Pippen, etc. It's just really, really hard to say right now. So I'll make updates when we do get that news. On to Denver. So it all depends on Jokic and Murray. If Jokic plays, I love him. If you think this game stays competitive, I think Murray will be fine. Everyone else, I don't think I get too much here. But if they're out again, I mean, fire up this team. Aaron Gordon would look like one of the best plays on the slate. I would absolutely love him. MPJ is just god-awful without Jokic and Murray. Be a fine contrarian option, but I would absolutely love Aaron Gordon. I would really, really like Reggie Jackson. DeAndre Jordan started last game. He'd be a really good value. And then we could even get to some of these other guys, like KCP is playable. And then consider some of these other guys, like Colin Gillespie played a decent amount. He'd be in play at 3.6K. Christian Braun got a big bump. He played 36 minutes. He'd be a solid value of 4K. What else? I think those are the main two I'd have interested in. How much did Watson play? Only 15 minutes. But yeah, Christian Braun played a ton. So definitely like him for value if these guys are out. So that's going to do it for the slate. Hope you guys had a great night, and I will talk to you all in the next video.